Hello everyone, I'm sorry I look like a thug, but I happen to be sick. And I'm also not wearing glasses, so I'm sorry if that takes away from your reading ambiance. I left you off in suspense tonight. Well, I haven't even finished the first chapter, so I'm gonna get right to it. We could do it, you know, Gail says quietly. What? I ask. Leave the district. Run off. Live in the woods. You and I. We can make it, says Gail. I don't know how to respond. The idea is so preposterous. If we didn't have so many kids, he adds quickly. They're not our kids, of course, but they may as well be. Gail's two little brothers and his sister, Prim. And you may as well throw our mothers in too, because how would they live without us? Who would fill those mouths that are always asking for more? With both of us hunting daily, there are still nights when game has to be swapped for lard or shoelaces or wool. Still nights we have to go to bed with our stomachs growling. I never want to have kids, I say. I might, but I don't live here, said Gail. But you do, I say, irritated. Forget it, he snaps back. The conversation feels all wrong. Leave? How could I leave Prim, who is the only person in the world I'm certain I love? And Gail's devoted to his family. We can't leave, so why bother talking about it? Even if we did. Where did this stuff about having kids come from? There's never been anything romantic between Gail and me. When we met, I was a skinny 12-year-old, and although he was 2 years older, he already looked like a man. It took a long time for us even to become friends, to stop haggling over every trade and begin helping each other out. Besides, if he wants kids, Gail won't have any trouble finding a wife. He's good looking, he's strong enough to handle work in the mines, and he can hunt. You can tell by the way girls whisper about him in the halls, in the school, that they want him. It makes me jealous, but not for the reason people would think. Good hunting partners are hard to find. What do you want to do? I ask. We can hunt, fish, or gather. Let's fish at the lake. We can leave our poles and gather in the woods. Get something nice for tonight, he says. Tonight. After the reaping. Everyone is supposed to celebrate. And a lot of people do. Out of relief, their children have been spared for another year. But at least two families will have to put their shutters, lock their doors, and try to figure out how they will survive painful weeks to come. We make out well. The predators ignore us on a day when easier, tastier prey abounds. By late morning, we have a dozen fish, a bag of greens, best of all, a gallon of strawberries. I found the patch a few years ago, but Gail had the idea to string mesh around the nets to keep out the animals. On the way home, we swing by the hob, and the black market that operates in an abandoned warehouse that once held coal. When they came up with a more efficient system that transported the coal directly from the mines to the trains, the hob gradually took over the space. Most businesses are closed by this time on reaping day, but the black market's still fairly busy. We easily trade six of the fish for good bread, the other two for salt. Greasy Say, the bony old woman who sells bowls of hot soup from a large kettle, takes half the greens off our hands in exchange for a couple of chunks of paraffin. We might do a tad better elsewhere, but we make an effort to keep on good terms with Greasy Say. She's the only one who can consistently be counted on to buy a wild dog. We don't hunt them on purpose, but if you're attacked and you take out a dog or two, well, it means meat. Once it's in the soup, I call it beef, Greasy says with a wink. Now, no one in shame would turn their nose up at a good leg of wild dog, but the peacekeepers who come to the hob can afford to be a little choosier. When we finish our business at the market, we go to the back door of the mayor's house to sell half the strawberries, knowing he has particular fondness for them and can afford our price. The mayor's daughter, Madge, opens the door. She's in my year at school. Being the mayor's daughter, you'd expect her to be like a snob, but she's alright. She just keeps to herself, like me. Since neither of us really has a group of friends, we seem to end up together at school a lot. Eating lunch, sitting next to each other at assemblies, partnering for sports activities. We rarely talk. which suits us both of us just fine. Today her drab school outfit has been replaced by an expensive white dress, and her blonde hair is done up with a pink ribbon. Reaping clothes. Pretty dress, says Gale. Madge shoots him a look, trying to see if it's a genuine compliment, or if he's just being ironic. It is a pretty dress, but she would never be wearing it ordinarily. She presses her lips together and smiles. Well, if I end up going to the Capitol, I want to look nice, don't I? Now it's Gale's turn to be confused. Does she mean it? Or is she messing with him? I guess the second. You won't be going to the Capitol, says Gale coolly. His eyes land on a small circular pin that adorns her dress. Real gold. Beautifully crafted. It could keep a family in bread for months. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I got quite the cold. What can you have? 5 entries? I had 6 when I was just 12 years old. That's not her fault, I say. No, it's no one's fault. Just the way it is, says Gale. Madge's face has become closed off. She puts the money for the berries in her hand. Good luck, Katniss. You too, I say as the door closes. We walk toward the shame in silence. I don't like that Gale took a dig at Madge. But he's right, of course. The reaping system is unfair, with the poor getting the worst of it. You become eligible for reaping the day you turn 12. That year, your name is entered once. At 13, twice, and so on until you reach the age of 18, the final year of eligibility, when your name goes into the pool 7 times. That's true for every citizen in the 12 districts in the entire country of Panem. But here's the catch. Say you were poor and starving as we were. You can opt out. You can opt to add your name more in exchange for tesserae. Each tesserae is worth a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well. So, at the age of 12, I had my name entered 4 times. Once because I had to, and 3 times for tesserae for grain and oil for myself, Prim, and my mother. In fact, every year I have needed to do this, and the interest are cumulative. So now, at the age of 16, my name will be in the reaping 20 times. Gale, who is 18, has been either helping or single-handedly feeding a family of 5 for 7 years. Will have his name in 42 times. You can see why someone like Madge, who has never been at risk of needing a tessera, can set him off. The chance of her name being drawn is very slim compared to those who live in the shame. Not impossible, but slim. And even those rules were set up by the Capitol, not the districts. Certainly not Madge's family. It's hard not to resent those who don't have to sign up for tesserae. I guess it's like Latin, so if there's more than one, you add the E, and if it's just one, it would be tessera. I don't know. Just taking a guess. Gale knows his anger at Madge is misdirected. On the other days, deep in the woods, I've listened to him rant about how the tesserae are just another tools to cause misery in our district, a way to plant hatred between the starving workers of the shame and those who can generally count on supper and thereby ensure we will never trust one another. It's the Capitol's advantage to have us divided among ourselves, he said. He might say if we were no ears to hear but mine. If it wasn't reaping day, if a girl with a gold pin and no tesserae had not made what I'm sure she thought was a harmless comment. As we walk, I glance over at Gale's face, still smoldering under his stony expression. His rages seem pointless to me, although I never say so. It's not that I don't agree with him. I do. But what good is it yelling about the Capitol in the middle of the woods? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make things fair. It doesn't fill our stomachs. In fact, it scares off nearby game. I let him yell, though. Better he does it in the woods than in the district. Gale and I divide our spoils, leaving 2 fish, a couple of loaves of good bread, greens, and a quart of strawberries, salt, and paraffin, and a bit of money for each. See you in the square, I say. Wear something pretty, he says flatly. At home, I find my mother and sister are ready to go. My mother wears a fine dress from her apothecary days. Prim is my first reaping outfit, a skirt and ruffled blouse. It's a bit big on her, but my mother has made it to stay with pins. Even so, she's having trouble keeping the blouse tucked in the back. A tub of warm water waits for me. I scrub off the dirt and sweat from the woods and even wash my hair. To my surprise, my mother has laid out one of her own lovely dresses for me, a soft blue thing with matching shoes. Are you sure? I ask. I'm trying to get past rejecting offers of help from her. For a while, I was so angry, I wouldn't let her do anything for me. And this is something special. Her clothes from her past are very precious to her. Of course. Let's put your hair up, too, she says. I let her towel dry it and braid it up my head. I can hardly recognize myself in the cracked mirror that leans against the wall. You look beautiful, says Prim in a hushed voice. Nothing like myself, I say. I hug her, because I know these next few hours will be terrible for her. Her first reaping. She's about as safe as you can get, since she's only entered once. I wouldn't let her take out any test or that word will be the death of me. But she's worried about me, that the unthinkable might happen. I protect Prim in every way I can, but I'm powerless against the reaping. The anguish I always feel when she's in the pain wells up in my chest and threatens to register on my face. I noticed her blouse is pulled out of her skirt and her back and force myself to stay calm. Tuck your tail in, little duck, I say, smoothing the blouse back in place. Prim giggles and gives me a small quack. Yes. Whack yourself, I say with a light laugh, the kind only Prim can draw out of me. Come on, let's eat, I say, and plant a quick kiss on the top of her forehead. The fish and greens are already cooking in the stew, but that will be for supper. We decide to stay for the strawberries and bakery bread for this evening's meal to make it special, we say. Instead, we drink milk from Prim's lady, and eat the rough bread made from the tesserae grain. Although no one has much of an appetite anyway. At 1 o'clock we head for the square. Attendance is mandatory unless you are at death's door. This evening's official will come around and check to see if this is the case. If not, you'll be imprisoned. Oh, so serious stuff, guys. That was not in the book. But this is. It's too bad, really, that they hold the reaping in the square, one of the few places in District 12 that can be pleasant. The square is surrounded by shops on a public market days, especially if there's good weather. It was holiday to feel it. It was a holiday feel to it. But today, despite the bright banners hanging on the buildings, there is an air of grimness. The camera crews perch like buzzards on top of rooftops only to add the effect. People file in silently and sign in. The reaping is as good as an opportunity for the Capitol to keep tabs on the population as well. 12 through 18-year-olds are... Okay, that was a big mess up that I have to redo. I know I kind of do that myself naturally, but District 12, yeah, okay. Let's redo that. Let's find it. Okay. People file in silently. The reaping is a good opportunity for the Capitol to keep tabs on the population. 12 through 18-year-olds are herded into the roped areas marked off by ages, the oldest in the front, the young ones print toward the back. Family members line up around the perimeter, holding tightly to one another's hands, but there are others, too, who have no one they love at stake, and who no longer care, who slip along the crowd, taking bets on the two kids' names who will be drawn. Odds are given on their ages, whether they're the shame or a merchant, or if they are break down or weep. Most refuse dealing with the racketeers, but carefully. These same people tend to be informers and who hasn't broken the law. I could be shot on a daily basis for hunting, but the appetites of those in charge protect me. Not everyone can claim the same. Anyway, Gale and I agree that if we choose to be between dying of hunger and a bullet in the head would be
much quicker.